Hi guys, so Monday the 5th means politicians need to rub their eyes after a long rest and get back to work. And as Sam Coates from Sky News here on Sunday night points out, it's going to be a pretty difficult week for Rishi Sunak. However, we seem to say that a lot. The crumbling schools and hospitals, of course, present a potentially physical danger to staff, students and patients respectively. But what Sam here is more focused on is the political fallout. The collapsing concrete couldn't be a better example of how Tory austerity has come home to roost. But Sam also mentions the problems facing the Labour Party as we get back into the swing of things. Have a listen.
Tomorrow we fire the starting gun on the new political term. MPs flooding back to Westminster, a term and a season, Gillian, that will ultimately result in a general election next year. And the Tories coming back already in trouble on an issue that's potentially so toxic, this issue of children being unable to go back to schools because of crumbling concrete. Let me explain why it's so difficult. Firstly, because it raises fears about the consequences of the Tories' long-term austerity. And secondly, it just raises the question about ministerial competence. In the last few years, we've had so much churn of cabinet ministers, and have they now taken their eye off the ball? I have to say, the last few days haven't helped from Rishi Sunak's top team. I think in Downing Street, they're preparing to climb down from an assertion by the Education Secretary Gillian Keegan last week that this was an isolated incident, isolated to 156 schools. I think they're expecting that number to grow. So Labour tomorrow will go on the attack. But Keir Starmer's team know that they actually need to do something different. They need to show what the Labour leader stands for. Now, tomorrow, he too will have an opportunity to show that. He's going to reshuffle his shadow cabinet, we believe, make some changes to his top team. Now, he might reassign his deputy leader, Angela Rayner, to a new role. He may demote, sack altogether Lisa Nandy, the shadow levelling up secretary. Although I kind of think that all of that tells us what he's against. Will we actually learn something about what he's for? That's why resets like this are important.
I love Sam Coates' enthusiasm. Okay, we'll get to what Keir Starmer seems to be for in a moment. No, but let's start off with the disastrous week ahead for Rishi Sunak. This is going to be biting him at every turn. You know, you have schools that are collapsing, hospitals that are at risk of collapsing. And it's not just limited to that. It's also courts, police stations, potentially residential properties are affected by this type of concrete. And this is going to damage the Conservatives. It has to. And it's a consequence of Tory austerity. Now, you can't find any Tories to criticise it, even though it's deeply unpopular with the public. And austerity has potentially killed hundreds of thousands of people already. So it's going to be very difficult for Rishi Sunak to defend austerity, although he probably will try to do that. And of course, the other part of concern is the churn, as Sam Coates pointed out here. The continuous change in leadership in the Conservative Party. You had 3 leaders in the space of a year, ministers in and out. Just this week we had Ben Wallace go and Michael Green take over. You know, this constant change means that civil servants have to readapt their policies, readapt to new policies, I should say, because each minister will have a different way of working and a different goal to achieve. Back to the Labour Party, I think people are less interested in the makeup of the cabinet and more interested in policies. And it's looking likely there's going to be a general election, and I think Keir Starmer is gearing up for that at the moment. So 2 policies that he's presented, or perhaps manifesto pledges. One is to build battleships with British steel. There was a strange one that came out from the Daily Mirror. Okay, British Steel is no longer British. It's owned by, I think, Tata and a Chinese company. So unless he's talking about nationalising British Steel, which would cost, a pretty penny at a time when there's, they're talking about having to balance the books. I don't really see the sense there. But of course, British Steel should be British. It's very important to maintain this under public ownership. but that's potentially something that could be put on the back burner. But the other one is no tax increases. Now, this is wonderful news for the richest in society and for companies. They'll say, "Oh, great! No tax increases." Of course, how are you going to pay for public services if you don't increase taxes? I think what Keir Starmer could do is introduce a new tax bracket. So potentially he's getting around the problem of saying, well, I'm not increasing taxes, I'm just introducing a new tax bracket at the higher end, of course, we would hope. This would mean that people who earn more at the higher end of the scale would end up paying more tax. You would have an extra tax bracket, meaning you would have people, you'd have at the lower end, middle end, and an upper end. So this potentially is a way of increasing revenue for the exchequer, but avoiding the political decision of increasing income tax. But this we'll have to wait and see. So it's going to be an interesting week. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.